Mental hospital. Mental hospitals. 1. The POW camps of our undeclared and unarticulated family wars. 2. Orphanages for adult orphans. 3. Parking places for people who want to get out of the traffic jams of life. 4. Cemeteries for the living dead. Dormitory beds are the grave sites. Psychiatric diagnoses, the gravestones. Psychiatrists, the grave diggers. Patients, the corpses. In the literal cemetery, microorganisms in the soil live off the tissues of the dead body. In the metaphorical cemetery, macroorganisms in the madhouse, called staff, live off the spirit of the living mental patient. Medical hospitals are repair shops, mental hospitals, parking places. Formerly, a child who had no parents because they died or disappeared was sent to an orphanage, not because people believed professional care was needed for a condition called orphanhood, but because the child could not take care of himself and no one else was able or willing to take care of him. Today, an adult who does not take care of himself, because he cannot or will not do so, is sent to a mental hospital, not because he does not take care of himself and no one else is able or willing to take care of him, but because people believe that he needs professional care for a condition called mental illness. Psychiatric emergency is to civil commitment as extortion is to taxation. The threat to harm oneself or someone else is a personal act of coercion, lacking political legitimacy and hence legal force. Incarcerating a person in a mental hospital is a collective act of coercion, possessing political legitimacy and hence legal force. No person confined in a mental hospital is free to leave. Nevertheless, the law distinguishes between two kinds of mental hospital patients: voluntary and involuntary. The voluntary patient thinks he can leave the hospital. He is wrong. The involuntary patient knows he cannot leave the hospital. He is right. Yet, because the voluntary mental patient has false beliefs convenient for the psychiatrist, while the involuntary mental patient has true beliefs inconvenient for him, psychiatrists insist that the former suffers from a mild mental disease and the latter from a serious one. Psychiatrists and psychiatric statisticians distinguish between voluntary and involuntary mental hospital patients. But so long as there are mental health laws authorizing the incarceration of persons under psychiatric auspices, there can be no voluntary mental hospital patients, just as there can be no voluntary taxpayers. Perhaps some people would willingly support the state, just as they willingly support churches. But who they are, if any, cannot be ascertained so long as the person who does not pay voluntarily is forced to pay a much heavier tax involuntarily. Involuntary mental hospitalization is like slavery. Refining the legal or psychiatric criteria for commitment is like prettifying the slave plantations. The problem is not how to improve or reform commitment, but how to abolish it.